Welcome! This series of tutorials aims to inform diagnostic laboratories about the new regulation on in vitro diagnostic medical devices, the IVDR. Please note that the implementation of the IVDR is an ongoing process and many aspects remain to be clarified. This means that new information will become available continuously. Please visit the ESLO website for more information. 3. Use of in-house devices and IVDR requirements for in-house devices. Before talking about the requirements for in-house devices, we'll first look into some data on the use of in-house devices. First, an interesting study that was published by the University of Leuven last year. They performed a case study, making an inventory of the diagnostic tests that they are running in their hospital laboratories. They looked at different categories of tests: CE-IVDs used as intended, modified off-label CE-IVDs, so CE-IVDs that are used outside of their intended use or deviating from the instructions for use, research use only kits that are used according to the instructions of the manufacturer, or lab-developed tests, or LDTs. They also specified whether tests were core laboratory, immunology, special chemistry, or molecular microbiology tests. The authors concluded that 42% of all the tests included in the analysis are CE-IVDs. This means that more than half of the tests do not fall into the category of CE-IVDs that are used as intended. A large part of these are LDTs. This indicates that use of LDTs by diagnostic laboratories is very common. Importantly, their analysis also shows that most of these LDTs are used because there is no alternative test available on the market, so there is no CE-IVD available for the application. Then there is also some data coming from the Netherlands, from the Dutch Institute for Public Health. A few years ago, they sent out a questionnaire to diagnostic laboratories and asked them how many in-house devices and how many CE-IVDs they are using. This diagram represents 100% of the labs that responded. 1/3 of those labs stated that they are not using any in-house devices. 2/3 of all labs, all the blue slices combined, do make use of in-house devices. The two darkest slices showed that 1 in 4 labs have implemented more in-house devices than CE-IVDs, so 50 to 100% of their tests are in-house devices. These tend to be the more specialized laboratories. Finally, the European Hematology Association, the EHA, sent out a questionnaire 2 years ago to special hematology labs. It turned out that about 80% of the tests used by these laboratories are LDTs. This concerns a lot of genetic tests and also flow cytometry tests. So, we can conclude that LDTs or in-house devices are very important for diagnostic patient care, now, but also after 2022. And also that the ratio between in-house devices and CE-IVDs depends on the diagnostic field and the level of specialization of a laboratory. This slide summarizes Article 5.5 of the IVDR, which lists the conditions for the use of in-house devices by health institutions. Health institutions are organizations with the primary purpose to care for or to treat patients, or to promote the public health. For example, hospitals, laboratories, and public health institutes. I refer to them mainly as diagnostic laboratories. Note that the exemption for health institutions to use in-house devices only applies to health institutions in the EU. Article 5.5 is a small article of less than 1 page. It says that the IVDR requirements do not apply to in-house devices, except the relevant General Safety and Performance Requirements, the GSPR, in Annex 1. Then, it lists a number of conditions that health institutions need to meet in order to be allowed to use in-house devices. The most important ones will be highlighted. A. In-house devices cannot be transferred between legal entities, so this means that you are not allowed to distribute reagents or other devices according to the definition of the IVDR, for example, to another hospital. However, the IVDR does not restrict sharing of protocols, knowledge, or results, developing guidance or templates together, or analyzing samples from other hospitals. B and C. It is necessary to work under an appropriate quality management system, or QMS. Compliance with the QMS according to ISO 15189 is appropriate for this. ISO 15189 is an international standard that specifies requirements for quality and competence in medical laboratories. As you will see, Annex 1 has a considerable overlap with ISO 15189. D. This is a very important one. Justification that the patient group's specific needs cannot be met at the appropriate level of performance by an equivalent device available on the market. This means that you have to justify why the use of the in-house device is necessary. If you can use a CE-IVD for your application, you have to use a CE-IVD. Only if there is no appropriate CE-IVD available, you are allowed to use an in-house device. F. You need to make a public declaration of conformity. This is basically a list published on your institution's website stating the address of the institution and listing the in-house devices that you are using with limited details. I. It is required to evaluate the use of an in-house device. With a certain frequency, you will have to review the experience gained from clinical use. So, this is a continuous process. The equivalent for CE-IVDs is called post-market surveillance. Finally, it is stated in Article 5.5 that the exemption does not apply to devices manufactured on an industrial scale. Even though it can be argued that in-house devices generally are not manufactured on an industrial scale, this term, and many other terms, have not been defined yet by the authorities.